Whiskey making in Wauhatchie, Part 1. Making whiskey was an important economic activity in Wauhatchie area where I grew up. On the cloudy days when the humidity was high but the air was cool, you could sit on my grandparents' porch and see the plumes of steam coming off half a dozen stills in the hollows on Mount Etna across the fields on the Cummings farm. On occasion, you'd see a lone distiller leading his mule loaded with a couple of 100-pound tote sacks of pure cane sugar into the woods on the dirt track leading up the mountain to his still. Most people made sugar whiskey because it was cheap but profitable. I never touched it because it had a poor reputation, plus if a distiller used white sugar, he probably was not above taking other shortcuts that might endanger your health or even in your life, such as making radiator run. Some disreputable lowlifes use car radiators as condensers, and the lead solder was pure poison. Drink that stuff and you soon developed the jake leg if you survived at all. The best distillers made traditional corn whiskey. Most of them made pure grain white lightning shine, but a few sticklers might age it a while in a charred barrel, giving it a golden color and a sweet scent to swoon for. One day my brother and I and our dog Lovable set out with my dad's old single-shot .22 Winchester to see if we could scare up some critters in the woods. A few hundred feet up the hollow, we came to a trail that ran parallel to the valley floor. It was part of the great Indian warpath and ran several miles before it turned east and crossed the valley to go around the foot of Lookout Mountain and on to the Smokies. All the tribes used it for centuries, and the earliest settlers followed it into Middle Tennessee and North Alabama and other points west. It was a warm, early fall day, and the leaves were still mostly on the trees and just beginning to color up. Lovable was a mongrel, but a fine hunting dog nonetheless. He always led us about 20 feet ahead. As we followed him on the trail, he suddenly alerted, his nose high in the air. When we caught up, I saw the foliage was disturbed on the uphill side of the hollow wall. The leaves were off, and several limbs were bent or broken up to about 5 feet off the ground. It was clearly a trail, and something had been going in and out of there recently. I thought perhaps it was a big buck. I knew my .22 shorts were useless, but I thought I would see if we could stalk that buck. As my brother and I stood debating whether it was worth it, we heard a somewhat distant report. Suddenly, the dry leaves were shredded around us, and I realized buckshot was bouncing off our caps and our jackets. Well, we started screaming, and Lovable was howling and complaining bitterly. But whoever had fired the shotgun had done so in such a way that it would get our attention but render us little harm. As we were in the midst of an all-out panic, a voice boomed out of the woods. "If and I is you boys, I'd not come up here in this here hollow." Shaken, we made a retreat post-haste, this time with Lovable trying to catch up to us. I do not know who was making whiskey up there in that hollow. It could have been anyone from a number of the whiskey-making clans that lived around us. Regardless, we only got a friendly warning, and we escaped with no harm, except perhaps the minor damage to our pride. Thank you.